Welcome to On the Beat. I'm sitting here today with Dr. Ricky Johnston and Dr. Richard Hurd with Gastroenterology Associates of Columbus and Starkville. And this is a topic that is close to me. I have a good friend that suffers from celiac disease, but I know very little about it other than he avoids gluten. So what is celiac disease?
The short of it is it's an intolerance to gluten, and it's not your everyday intolerance to gluten. A lot of people, have a little gluten and have a little of an upset stomach, but this is an autoimmune disease, an autoimmune reaction to gluten that can be pretty severe.
So more than just I can't eat gluten. And what is gluten? What is it about it that triggers this type of reaction?
It's a component to wheat that for whatever reason triggers a cross-reaction to our antibodies and causes them to attack.
So I could just be one day intolerant to it? Or is it something that I've always had?
A lot of people have a genetic predisposition to it. We can actually do genetic testing. There's 2 genes that we can test for that are suggestive of people that are susceptible to it. When I was in fellowship, they used to teach us about the iceberg. Basically, you think about, the iceberg above the water is the people who have been diagnosed with celiac and, maybe are aware of it, but below that, you have a much bigger body. And there's a lot of people that are susceptible to it because of their genetics, but maybe necessarily haven't developed symptoms or been diagnosed yet.
And so can somebody with celiac not have gluten at all? Can they have a little bit of it?
Generally, we say no gluten at all, especially starting off, because usually gluten is in everything, if you hadn't noticed. And so
Yes.
when people come to us, a lot of times they can have very significant symptoms because they're getting a lot of gluten. So at first we'll say, cut it all out. Now, I have patients who say, I can still tolerate some gluten every once in a while. I have some patients who, if their food is prepared in the same kitchen as something else with gluten, they will have, problems with that. So I think there's a little bit of a range based on the individual.
What would be the symptoms somebody would experience?
Stomach pain, bloating, diarrhea are some of the big ones.
We talked about the autoimmune reaction earlier, the inflammation. You actually get inflammation in the gut. So as your body is trying to process gluten, you get the antibodies in your body kind of attack almost the intestinal lining, and so it causes diarrhea and other symptoms he was referring to. Your body is actually able to absorb some of your nutrients, so you can get vitamin deficiency and mineral deficiencies as well.
And
Iron's the big one.
Yeah, iron, exactly.
Do some people have more of a sensitivity than others, or you have celiac, you have celiac?
I think it's probably a spectrum of severity. Some people definitely are worse than others. And we talked about intolerance off the top. And there's a lot of people out there that are intolerant of gluten that aren't necessarily allergic or diagnosed with celiac. And we see it a lot with IBS patients. So we tell a lot of IBS patients to avoid gluten. And even though they're not allergic or have an autoimmune inflammatory reaction to it, but they eliminate gluten and while their symptoms go away or get better.
Wonderful. And a cure? Is there a cure?
No, just staying off gluten is really all that you can do.
Okay.
But I think having celiac these days is much better than it was 10 years ago, just because gluten-free diet is so widely known and accepted, and even in restaurants, people try to prepare gluten-free foods.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good to know. And if you want to speak to the doctors, their information is at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for watching On the Beat.